Good evening, everybody. As you know, we haven't had a real good year, and we had an even worse year when we lost Steve Ames. I met Steve Ames in 1977 when I was looking for a fender molding for my 63 Bonneville. I called Steve. I arranged to meet him at a swap meet in Mohegan, Massachusetts. I said, Steve, how will I recognize you? He says, I'll be wearing the yellow Hearst hat. And if any of you know Steve from way back when, you remember the yellow Hearst hat. And that hat changed from time to time. Finally, he wore a Pontiac hat. So, thank you, Steve. But this is a biography written by Steve's wife, Jo. 62 years is a long time to know someone, but in Steve's case, it was an incredible life, and we wish it could have been longer. I first saw Steve in the 9th grade study hall in the library. This 5'3" blonde kid who was never still and always causing chaos. I wrote him off immediately. Then after summer break, Steve was in all my classes and had grown 5 or 6 inches. That year I realized how smart and cute he was, and we had our first date for the spring exchange concert. His parents drove us as neither of us had yet had a license. Steve grew up in Tingsboro, Mass, and should have gone to Lowell High, but his parents preferred Nashua as they were really New Hampshire people. No school bus service, but it was the 50s, and he rode with whoever had a license. I was at Nashua because our small town had just switched from Milford. Neither of us had a local high school, luckily. We finally married 10 years later after college. My junior year in France and Steve's military commitment to the Air National Guard as a radar tech. We were apart more than together as our colleges were 7 hours apart in Maine and Vermont. His mother said to my grandmother in 1968, "What are they waiting for now?" Okay. And now we see the Shelby. We moved to Orland, Maine on the edge of Down East, driving our only new car for the next 20 years, a 67 Shelby, to a 3rd-floor apartment over the general store. Steve worked as a mechanical engineer for the St. Regis Paper Company. But he was a glorified draftsman working inside, and he liked neither. He lasted a year and a half and then quit and went to outdoor work, putting in concrete foundations, continuing his drag racing hobby at Oxford Speedway, and also working as a tech director at the stock car track in Unity, Maine. In addition, he published a weekly race program and sold advertising for the Maine Junior Miss program. Can you imagine that? Steve Ames selling advertising for Junior Miss. That was a brief career in real estate, and on to buying, fixing, and reselling minor wrecks in the garage he rented. 7 years, rented the 7 years we lived in Maine. We moved to New Hampshire in 1975 to the only home we've ever known, a 1787 Cape on 200 acres in Marlborough in the picturesque Monadnock region. Steve, who always preferred the rustic life and sleeping on the front seat of the truck, says, "Do you like the house? Because I really like the idea of 200 acres. I can hear Steve saying that. Simultaneously, we had gone to the Hershey swap meet one fall, and I saw people selling fuel injection and Chevy parts. Steve didn't realize they had any value. Parts he had saved from his drag racing days. Thus began Ames Performance Engineering. Steve, driving his old pickup with gas or propane fuel, options to dealers of the Mississippi from 1976 to the early 80s when the dealers began running out of obsolete parts. He had soon learned the competition was far less in Pontiac than Chevrolet. No haggling. When Steve realized that some of the people he met were making parts in their cellars or garages, he could replenish his inventory. We began publishing our Pontiac parts catalogs and building the barns you see across from our house. We could also order parts still available from our local GM dealership. Steve always emphasized quality and service. He didn't want customers waiting for their parts, so he strived to stock nearly 90% of them. He began his wholesale manufacturing company, Ames Automotive Enterprises, in 1989. Mostly in Taiwan, as our quantities were too small for U.S. manufacturers, but the quality was there. And we did a lot of quality control and testing in-house. Steve continued going to trade and roadshows to keep in touch with customers' needs and suggestions. He was a prime mover in developing the superseded drag race show and swap meet at Summit Raceway Park in Norwalk, Ohio, giving back all he could to the racers and other participants. Free coffee, donuts, free buffets, returning the winners' entries fees. To this day, it is still a huge, growing show, sponsored by Ames Performance Engineering. Steve loved our country and had a strong interest in visiting the national parks. We visited 43 of the 59 parks over the last 25 years. Whatever Steve was into, he was all in. Whether it was building a lakeside cottage in Maine with his parents at 10 years old, or working in his vegetable gardens, or playing tennis in Key West, it got all his undivided attention, so I did whatever needed. Steve's untimely death is a huge loss to the people who knew, loved, and worked for him. But he always said he had all he hoped to do and was able to go tomorrow with no regrets. Steve's last gift to us is the preservation of his low-mile, unrestored collection, which is open by appointment. See our website, Ames Automotive Foundation, to arrange a time when you might visit Steve's car museum. The museum is just down the road from the home they bought 45 years ago. Steve would say, live each day as if it were the last, in case it is. Thank you, Joan Ames. When we lost Steve, we probably lost the person that single-handedly has done more for the automotive hobby than anybody has ever done and anyone will ever do. But behind every successful man is a successful woman. So I want to bring Joan Ames up.
Steve always said he had a great ride in the hobby, which was also his business. It was everything he ever wanted to do. And we thank you always